exactly as provided. A long suspense crime story inspired by real events. The Pacific Northwest was beautiful in the summer of 1974. Tall evergreen trees swayed gently in the wind. College students laughed on campuses. Young women walked through crowded streets without a second thought. It seemed like a peaceful place where nothing truly terrible could happen. But evil was already moving among them. Not the kind of evil people imagined. Not a scarred-faced monster lurking in dark alleys. This monster wore a friendly smile. This monster was charming. His name was Ted Bundy, and he would become one of the most feared serial killers in American history. Long before the headlines, before the trials and television cameras, Ted Bundy appeared to be living the American dream. He was intelligent, handsome, confident. He studied law and politics. He volunteered for political campaigns. He could walk into a room full of strangers and instantly make people like him. Friends described him as funny and polite. Women found him attractive. Parents trusted him. Police officers saw nothing unusual about him. Yet beneath the surface lived a darkness nobody could see, a darkness that had been growing for years. The disappearances started quietly. One missing woman, then another, then another. At first, nobody connected the cases. Young women disappeared from college campuses, shopping centers, and public places. Some vanished in broad daylight. It didn't make sense. There were no signs of struggle, no witnesses, no clear suspects. People simply seemed to disappear into thin air. Police were baffled. Detectives worked around the clock, chasing leads that led nowhere. The killer left almost nothing behind. No fingerprints, no useful evidence, no obvious pattern. The victims were gone before anyone realized they were in danger. Meanwhile, Ted Bundy continued living a perfectly normal life. He attended classes, went on dates, spent time with friends, smiled for photographs. Nobody suspected a thing. His method was terrifyingly simple. Bundy understood human psychology better than most people. He knew that kindness could be more powerful than force. Many witnesses later recalled seeing a handsome young man wearing a fake arm cast or using crutches. He would approach women and politely ask for help. "Hey, could you give me a hand loading something into my car?" The request sounded harmless. The man seemed harmless. And because he appeared injured, people naturally wanted to help. That moment of kindness often became their last mistake. One sunny afternoon at Lake Sammamish State Park in Washington, hundreds of people enjoyed the warm weather. Families picnicked, children played, boats drifted across the water. Among the crowd walked Ted Bundy. He introduced himself simply as Ted. Several women remembered meeting him that day. Some survived, others vanished forever. It was one of the boldest hunting grounds of his entire killing spree. He was becoming more confident, more dangerous, more reckless. As months passed, bodies began appearing in remote forests and mountain areas. The discoveries horrified investigators. Victims were found far from where they had disappeared. Many remains were scattered by wildlife and weather. The crime scene suggested a killer who returned repeatedly to isolated locations, a killer who wanted complete control over his victims, a killer who felt no remorse. Fear spread across Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Colorado, and Utah. News stations issued warnings. Parents begged daughters to stay alert. College campuses became tense. Women traveled in groups. People locked their doors earlier than ever before. Yet the murders continued. The killer always seemed one step ahead. Then a breakthrough finally arrived. Several witnesses described the same suspect. A handsome man, dark hair, friendly personality, driving a tan Volkswagen Beetle, and introducing himself as Ted. The name appeared again and again. Detectives suddenly had something real. For the first time, the invisible monster had a face. Police eventually identified Theodore Robert Bundy as a suspect. But even then, many investigators struggled to believe it. The man sitting in front of them didn't look like a serial killer. He looked like a law student. He spoke clearly. He answered questions calmly. He seemed intelligent and cooperative. Some officers even liked him. That was Bundy's greatest weapon. He didn't fit society's image of evil. In 1975, a highway patrol officer stopped Bundy's Volkswagen in Utah. Inside, police discovered suspicious items: handcuffs, a ski mask, rope, a crowbar, other tools that suggested criminal activity. Bundy offered innocent explanations for everything. He always had a story. He always sounded convincing. But investigators weren't convinced anymore. The evidence against him continued to grow. Eventually, survivors identified Bundy as the man who had attacked them. Witnesses connected him to multiple crimes. The walls were closing in. His carefully constructed world was beginning to collapse. Then came one of the most unbelievable chapters in criminal history. Bundy escaped. Not once, twice. During a court appearance in Colorado, he was allowed access to a law library because he was helping with his own defense. It seemed harmless. After all, he was under supervision, or so authorities thought. Bundy noticed an open window. Without hesitation, he jumped from it. Then he ran. A suspected serial killer had vanished into the mountains. The entire country was stunned. Police launched a massive search operation. For days he survived alone in the wilderness. Eventually he was recaptured. The nightmare appeared to be over. But it wasn't. Months later, Bundy escaped again. This time he squeezed through a hole in the ceiling of his jail cell after losing weight and carefully preparing for weeks. He disappeared completely. Authorities had no idea where he was. He traveled across the country undetected. Eventually he arrived in Florida, and there the killings resumed. By this point, Bundy was no longer the controlled predator he had once been. Something had changed. His crimes became more chaotic, more violent, more desperate. It was as though the mask was slipping. The monster underneath was taking full control. In January 1978, Florida experienced one of the most shocking crimes connected to Bundy. The brutality stunned even experienced investigators. Police immediately launched one of the largest manhunts in state history. The public was terrified. People wanted answers, and they wanted the killer caught. Fast. Fortunately, Bundy's luck was finally running out. Witnesses provided information. Physical evidence connected him to crime scenes. Investigators followed every lead. Then, after a traffic stop, police arrested him once again. This time, there would be no escape. The trial became a media sensation unlike anything America had seen before. Television cameras filled the courtroom. Reporters packed every seat. Millions watched from home. Bundy seemed to enjoy the attention. He smiled, joked, acted confident. Sometimes he behaved more like a celebrity than a murder suspect. The contrast shocked viewers. How could someone appear so normal while being accused of such horrifying crimes? But prosecutors possessed overwhelming evidence, witness testimony, forensic evidence, survivor identifications, detailed investigations from multiple states. Piece by piece, Bundy's carefully crafted image began to crumble. The charming mask finally shattered. The jury saw what investigators had spent years trying to prove. Behind the smile stood a ruthless predator. When the guilty verdict arrived, families of victims wept. Some cried from grief. Others cried from relief. After years of fear and uncertainty, justice had finally caught up with Ted Bundy. The man who once believed he could outsmart everyone had finally reached the end of the road. Yet the fascination with Bundy never disappeared. Psychologists studied him for decades. Criminologists analyzed his behavior. Writers produced books. Filmmakers created documentaries. People kept asking the same question. How could someone so charming commit such terrible crimes? The answer remains unsettling. Evil doesn't always look evil. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it speaks politely. Sometimes it earns your trust before revealing its true face. Ted Bundy's story became a warning for generations. Not simply because of the number of victims, not because of the escapes, not because of the nationwide manhunt, but because he shattered a common belief. People wanted monsters to look frightening. Bundy proved they don't have to. The most dangerous predator in the room may not be the loudest, may not be the angriest, may not even look suspicious. Sometimes the predator is the person everyone trusts. And that realization is what makes the story of Ted Bundy so terrifying. Even today, years later, long after the trials ended, long after the headlines faded, the legend of the charming monster still lingers in America's darkest criminal history. Because the scariest monsters aren't always hiding in the shadows. Sometimes they're standing in the light, smiling, waiting, and nobody sees them coming.